I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Teen News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about some more Elon Musk and Trump stuff. Allegedly, they're supposed to be trying to work things out. It looks like some things calmed down. I haven't seen like a massive amount of tweets since the time of yesterday. There's some little things with Elon replying to some folks, but it looks like, I don't know if somebody took somebody's phones, but that maybe they're trying to work things out. And we'll see if they can, because Elon said some things that I don't know if you can just kind of walk back. So we'll be talking about that. Also, this story about Chinese nationals being charged with a conspiracy to smuggle dangerous biological pathogen into the United States for their work at the University of Michigan. And they were charged and arrested. Some experts are saying it's possible that they weren't trying to do bioterrorism or agroterrorism. And we shall see. But there is some, I had mentioned this story earlier in the week, and other stories just kind of were firing off. But I do want to talk about this. This is happening like in my backyard, basically. So it will, in my state anyway. So it would be very dangerous if people were smuggling in things to harm our crops. So I think that's just something that we do need to keep in mind. Even if this is an honest mistake, it's still not great. But if this could happen mistakenly, the question is, what happens when someone wants to do this on purpose? So it's an important story, at least, to cover. And we'll talk about some other things as well. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys with blacktunes.com. Check out different content on the website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost to stream, run my site, all that good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available on my website, because it does, as I said, cost a stream, but that's another way that you guys can support. I got different mugs and t-shirts that you guys can check out. So I encourage you guys to do that. Check out the things there. I also encourage you to check out some of my books that I've written. I have quite a few. And so I have children's chapter books and young adult stuff, and I'm writing more and more all the time. So I encourage you guys to, check that out. By the way, my birthday is fast approaching. Hello, Bailey. How you doing? So on Tuesday, that will be my birthday. I do plan to stream if I don't even know what I want to do. I think the only thing that I intend to really doing Tuesdays is when my family usually goes to the movies, and because it's like $5 at Imagine Theater. And Ballerina looks like it's pretty good. I'm seeing some good reviews for it. I didn't really want to see it if it was on my birthday, but I'm hearing that it's good, and I do like the John Wick franchise. So that's the only thing that I think I'm for sure going to do. I don't know if I'm going to go out to eat or anything like that yet, but the movies is probably a go. So at the very least, that day I do plan to stream and be with you all on my birthday. I don't really plan to take that day off. And hopefully the news is not sad or dangerous, but juicy. Maybe hopefully we'll have a fun day that day. So anyway, let's hop to it. Before I start, or as I'm starting, I think I want to show you guys this pretty funny video by Ami Kozak. He does impressions and stuff, usually political ones. I've never seen like a full set of his, but usually when he pops up, he's doing some kind of political skit. He does have, a podcast where he does talk politics. He's you guys have probably seen him before because I shared his videos where he was debating Candace Owens defending Israel. So you've seen him at least in some capacity, but this video was pretty funny. So he was covering the Elon Trump fight, and if you need some context, unless in case you weren't here yesterday and you were living under a rock, Elon Musk has been very upset about the big beautiful bill, and he had tweeted out like, this is just wrong, egregious, I can't keep my mouth shut anymore. If you're voting for this, shame on you. And he's making comments like that, like kill the bill, sharing different memes. And so Trump was asked about it, and he's like, well, you might be upset about the EV subsidies, and I could have won by myself in Pennsylvania. And Elon, he saw the bill, and he was very intimate with the bill, and all sorts of things that Elon was saying wasn't true. And then Trump had tweeted something else too, and or truthed it on his platform or whatever, and it just became back and forth. And Elon said that Trump was in the Epstein files. Now, I think I don't know, people say crazy things when they're mad, and both of them are used to I guess throwing tantrums over the internet, so maybe they're more prone to kind of forgiving each other when those tantrums happen, but still, maybe doing a little bit of side eye, like I remember when you whatever. But so maybe they can get over it. If someone was trying to imply something like that, I just couldn't get over that. That doesn't mean, I guess we could be strategic allies. I'm just saying I just wouldn't get over that myself. But and it looks like they might still be fine with their contracts with the space program. I'm not sure, because Trump alluded like, well, we can save money and get rid of Elon's contracts. And then Elon's like, okay, we're going to pump the brakes on this then. And then he opted, then I guess they reversed that. So they're supposed to be meeting and figuring that out, I guess, and hashing some stuff. But this drama is not good for them passing the bill, for sure. Especially as Republicans are admitting that they haven't read the bill. And if it comes back I guess similar with some of the same things in it, that they're going to not vote for it when it comes back to the House. So it's a mess. It's a big mess. And I guess the other question is, like, you can understand there's lots of things in it that you don't like, and it's spending a lot of money. But a good question to ask is, what would you do and what would you put in it in order to get to 60 votes, to get enough votes to get it to pass? And that's why it's kind of bloated the way that it is. I don't like how it works. I guess the question is this the way that it has to be? I think there are things that definitely could have done better. But anyway, Ami did a very funny skit. I thought it was funny. Maybe you guys won't think it's funny. I thought it was very funny. So I just wanted to share as he does his impression of Trump and Elon.
Hello?
Seriously, dude, like, what the F?
Oh, is this about Epstein?
No, like, I told you that in confidence.
Yeah, well, maybe you shouldn't.
I told you that. I thought we were besties. I really did.
Well, so did I.
Well, look.
But I wanted to cut spending.
That's
I wanted to cut spending. So
I was going to take you to the island. I was going to take you. Remember that? I was going to take you there.
You were?
We were going to have a good time, and you ruined it. You botched it. You botched it so badly. So badly you botched it.
I just really wanted to make government efficient.
No,
so.
This is unforgivable that you would say that.
Well, you left me no choice, Donald.
This is like hoes before bros level betrayal. That's
well, I have a lot of those. So.
And I was going to give you a hose. I was going to take you there. I still know where it is.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It's so wrong. It's so wrong.
Well, you left me no choice.
I let your little kid wipe boogers on my desk. You know that. In front of the press, I let him wipe little boogies, beautiful boogies, but I let him do it. I let him do it because I believed in our country, and I wanted you to be a part of that.
I know, but you screwed it up.
You botched it so badly. It's unbelievable.
I didn't botch it.
You know what?
botched it,
You don't
so-
have the cards right now. You don't have the cards. I'm going to go burn my Tesla. How do you like that? You like that?
Oh, you go for it. Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah.
I was never even there, and you know that. I was never there.
What, on Epstein's Island? Yes, you were.
We can ask Epstein himself. I'll call him. I'll call him right now.
Oh, really? How are you going to do that? He's dead.
Oh, you think he is?
Well, yeah.
Jeff.
I've never heard him do. I think he does good impressions. Some people don't love his impressions, but I thought that was a pretty good Elon, and I think his Trump is pretty good too. The like mentioning all the women like hoes before bros, and he's like, well, I already have a lot of those, referring to all of the baby mamas that Elon has. I just thought there was a lot of good jokes in there. He also did a Dave Smith skit, and I don't know, sometimes, like an impression he didn't sound like exactly like him, but there were different mannerisms that I didn't even realize that like Dave Smith did until he mocked them. But anyway, I thought it was funny. I thought it was a funny skit. An unfortunate situation though, but we are a day removed from the blast. So I guess I might as well laugh a little bit about it, but hopefully they get it together. But I did go ahead and look through Elon's Twitter page or X page, and there isn't any more digs at Trump unless there was things that was deleted that I missed. Steve Bannon had recommended like seizing Tesla stuff or something, and Elon tweeted under that Bannon is a criminal and that's why he's recommending crimes. And another thing was that Will Chamberlain had pointed out, according to him, he said, well, all this started because Elon put out that tweet saying, the bill is disgusting. If you're voting for it, you did wrong. And this was not private. And so he's the one who started it. And so someone said under that, or maybe they retweeted, but they commented about that post, and they said that Elon criticized Congress. He didn't criticize Trump, but then it became personal. Like Trump made it personal. And then Elon said, correct. So I think he has the right to talk about him not liking the bill, and I guess trying to flex his voice or influence to try to get people to change it. Not in I'm a billionaire and I have so much influence, but just as an American citizen, if you have concerns about spending and things being passed and you don't like it, then you go ahead and you voice your concerns. I think when you're playing for a team and you're in the party or you're some kind of operative, there are different ways that you react publicly for the sake of your team winning. But he's no longer working for the government, and as a volunteer, a lot of money of his gets confiscated for the government, and we do need to change how we spend. It's just a fact. And people start to ask, like, what's the point of voting for your side if your side can't bring about positive change? And if your side is willing to compromise and sound like the other side, like saying things about like, oh, the deficit, it doesn't matter. It's just in the debt ceiling. Oh, that's an illusion. Something we just made up. Like, it's not a big, like saying things like that and sounding more like Elizabeth Warren than, a Tea Party person is not the way that you should go. And people are like, okay, well, we were told that we have to sacrifice some of our conservative, like socially conservative values to be able to win. And now we've won in amassed power. And now we're sacrificing our fiscally conservative policy. So what is the point of winning if we're because we can still exercise power, but what are we doing with that power if we're still heading toward a trajectory where we're just spending an enormous amount of money? We're not making like the recommended cuts that, you know, Elon and other folks suggested, that we're expanding the SALT, you know, deductions and all those things. And I understand there's Republicans in purple states who want that stuff for their state, but what's the point of the victories? And so there's good, don't get me wrong, I'm happy about many things. Like Allie Beth Stuckey pointed out that she read something that the Trump administration put out about women in pregnancy or something, and they just said the term pregnant women. And she was just happy and noting how good it was to read the phrase pregnant women, and how ridiculous it would have been if Kamala Harris had won and we had to start just saying pregnant people. You know, because Democrats, they make declarations like that. They want the language changed. Like my governor, she talked about people with periods because she didn't want to say women. And now we are in a pendulum swing where, like, bro, like, it's men, it's women, boys and girls. You either are, you aren't, and we don't have to make language so silly for your delusions. That's weird. Like, get over it. We're at a totally different point than we were before, and where we would have been if she had won. That would have been a bad sign, right? So there's very good things. There's very good things, and there are some cultural wins going on. I think we need to do more things to solidify stuff. And I think a lot of that swing, though, is beyond Trump and his win. Like, I'm glad that he's riding that wave, but I mean, think about just was it 20, what year was it? There was a Charlotte, was it Charlotte, where they had the bathroom policies and they were boycotting because the state was like wouldn't let men in women's bathroom or something. It was 2016. North Carolina passed House Bill 2 HB2, a law that required individuals to use public restrooms corresponding with their sex listed on their birth certificate. And that law sparks significant backlash, including boycotts in the state, primarily due to concerns about LGBTQ plus rights. And the NBA even moved the All-Star game from Charlotte. So you guys remember that? There used to be a time when we didn't talk too much about where you peed. You just kind of went into the bathroom and did your business. And there are even trans people, trans women, trans identifying males who, I don't think this is right, but they would go in the women's bathroom, do their businesses, kind of leave. And, you know, it just wasn't a topic really of discussion. But there was a city ordinance, I think, that was like pro LGBT. There was something that was pro LGBT, and then there was a response to it, and then eventually it got to the response of the state trying to protect female spaces, you know, and then, like, there was all this outrage from the NBA and all these groups saying, well, we're boycotting, you know, North Carolina. That wasn't that long ago, guys. That was 9 years ago. So, if that was just 9 years ago, and now people are really sick of this stuff. We made a big shift in the pot in a good direction, but there was a lot of folks speaking out. I was never on the respect their pronouns train. I was never in the let them in the bathrooms train. I was always very adamant in my stance. There are some people who said who thought I was a little too strict or whatever. And I was adamant about, no, you have to push back against this stuff. I was always very adamant. But you had Daily Wire, for example, do the What is a Woman documentary. And the What is a Woman documentary really, really highlighted how ridiculous the ideology is. You had Abigail Schreier talk about her book and different studies that came out of the UK and so on. You had, J.K. Rowling sticking to her guns, and she was funding, that helped to get that that Supreme Court decision that was passed in the UK about women's spaces. And there's lots of folks who have participated in this to help shift the culture. So, and it's not just a thing that Trump won and signed these things. As a matter of fact, I think it's really easy for him to do that, and it's not like he was a part of the cultural shift. I mean, in 2016, he was asked, like, where can Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner use the bathroom or whatever, and he was kind of teetering on the issue a bit, but he did say that Bruce could use the female bathroom, and he even went to pee in Trump Tower. So he was not as strong. Even in the primary, he was kind of like flummoxed on the issue a bit and wasn't as strong as you kind of want him to be. So, but it's an 80-20 issue. And it's really easy to be like, we're going to protect our girls and sign stuff. So it was a group effort. And I'm glad he was riding that wave. And I'm glad that he's at the helm. And it's not Kamala Harris. So there's good things that have happened. There's good things that have been achieved. But we have to do something about the spending. We have to do something about that spending. And midterms, there's going to be a lot of people who are already burned out and disillusioned. Elon, it seems like he's already disillusioned. And I was reading different comments that he was replying to or retweeted or whatever. And they're like, I was so happy, excited January, February. Now I'm just like, I'm not doing much for the midterms or doing stuff for the midterms. And I think that's just the nature of when you win and you have all this stuff, because it usually does flip control. Whoever wins the presidency, you might have all three, or you might have two, or whatever. It flips back. I think that would be really bad. If it flips back, I don't want the Democrats. I do not want Hakeem Jeffries to be the majority leader. That clown. He's a clown. He is a clown. I don't want him to be the House leader. But it's going to be very hard for Trump to get any sort of agenda done, if that's the case. Kit gets it. The first bathroom conflict I remember was when Target came out and said men could use the women's bathroom if they identified as a woman, and that was not good for Target. That was people were boycotting Target, and I think they went ahead and changed their policy, but they were hurting for a minute. Like, people were really not going. I haven't even been in Target that often since that time. I could probably count on. I could definitely count on my hands how many times I've been in Target since that dilemma. I might, as far as purchases that I've made, I could maybe count on one hand. But I really not crazy about Target, but I used to work there, so we call Target the place where dreams go to die. So so one thing I will probably do, I think, involving Target though, when I release my book Bigger, all my stuff is on Amazon, but with Bigger, I think I'm going to do a wider release and just go through. Distributors can technically get the stuff and order it through Amazon, but they don't like really doing that. So I think I'm going to go through Ingham Spark. I might go through both. But if I go through Ingham Spark, then like Target and other retailers or whatever could order through Ingham Spark. And so I'd be able to order it from Target. So I might, because I used to work there and I was so sad working there, and I would go to Comic-Con weekend and like maybe sell some stuff and be all like, oh yeah, and then have to go stock shelves. And it was just it was hard. I don't want to get through like all my mental state during that time, but I just, and they also didn't like reward hard work at Target. They didn't. So it was a little soul crushing. And I just wanted to get out so bad. So I think that I probably will, I think it's just kind of a nice gesture for me to order it from there and then be able to be like, I got my book at Target. So I will probably do that, but I don't usually go to Target myself. But that was a huge deal with Target. And Target, I don't know if all of them have a single stall, but many of them do. But I did see a video yesterday on TikTok. Funny that you bring up Target, of a woman who went to inside of a Target and there was a man in her bathroom. And she just had a reaction within herself that she was afraid and concerned, like, because I think she heard his voice when she was in the stall, and then she was hoping that he would finish first and he didn't, so she came out of the stall, and then he came out of the stall, and then she's just like kind of had a flight or fight, kind of, within herself. And then she decided to confront him and said, I don't know if you know this, but this is, if you came in here accidentally, but this is the woman's restroom. And then he looked at her and was like, oh, so you're one of them. And she was just like flabbergasted and ended up leaving, didn't confront him more than that. But she got on TikTok and told the story, and she's just like, this is not okay. Like, and Target needs to do better. I'm like, this dude came in the bathroom and then had the audacity to make her feel bad. You could say sex and gender aren't the same thing, but historically we have used them interchangeably. And do you think our bathrooms are separate and segregated based on vibes? Do you think it's based on vibes? I think there's a reason why there's urinals in men's bathrooms and not in women's bathrooms. I think there's a reason for that. I'm not saying if you chopped it off that you're suddenly able to go in the women's bathroom. That's not what I was saying. But we do have, they made those to be segregated based on sex, not on vibes. Because our biological sex does naturally make distinctions between the male and the female. That's one reason why our sports are segregated by sex. And when women go to the bathroom, every time we go to the bathroom, whether it's number 1 or number 2, we get halfway naked. We pull down our pants. We pull up our dresses or skirts or whatever to be able to relieve ourselves. And the thought of being alone in the bathroom and you're on the toilet and all of a sudden you hear the voice of a man in there, it is concerning. It is concerning. Anyway, I saw a good quote from J.K. Rowling today. I had put it on my Facebook, so maybe some of you already seen it. But she said, there is no living as a woman. There is only living while being a woman or performing a male idea of what a woman is while being a man. Very true. Very true. Someone under that said, trans women live while being a woman. They do not perform anything as well, And she said, if they were women, they wouldn't be trans. And she also says something in the comments to folks, and like someone said, no one has ever properly explained that phrase to me. It's meaningless, along with I've always felt like a woman. And she said the question, how would you, a man, know what it feels like to be a woman, always elicits revealing answers. I asked that question. Like, how do you know what it feels like to be a woman? You have no basis to say that. It's your idea of what you think it feels like to be a woman, but you can't possibly know. I saw a stick figure, like a cartoon on TikTok, just showing like different relationship skits or whatever. And there was one where a man was talking to his wife, and he's like, hey, the boys, they want to know if I can go out drinking. And she's like, okay. And she's just washing the dishes. And he's like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, you can go. I don't care. And he's like, okay, well, I won't be out too late. I'll be back. I can get you something to eat. Want something to eat? She's like, I don't know nothing to eat. Like, you can go. It's fine. And then he just keeps asking and trying to affirm, like, I won't be too late, and I won't have too many drinks. And I'll be, trying to make it get all kinds of permission or whatever. And she just says, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And at the end, she's like, he says on the phone to his friends, like, yeah, I can't go out tonight because he understands that even though she's saying it's okay, that she doesn't really want him to go. And the comments were funny because so many guys were like, yep, that's exactly right. And women are like, yep, that's exactly, that's how it is. And it's funny when you see people say, well, I'm a trans person. They're putting on their performance of what it is to be a woman. It's putting on lipstick. It's growing out your hair. It's wearing a dress. It's having like exaggerated, feminine motions with your wrists and, of your hair. Like if you watch Blair White, Blair does like all these mannerisms that are really hyper exaggerated to me. But they don't, I don't know, do things like little things like that. Now, I'm not saying all women are like that, but it's just funny. It's just funny. It's just funny. But the bathroom stuff, we ought to know that, like, obviously men should not be in women's bathrooms. Anyway, before I get into the story about the Chinese nationals, I wanted to play this clip with Scott Jennings on CNN. And they got into a little argument about paying for illegal aliens. And there was more to it before this particular part of the clip, but he basically got all these Democrats to admit that we should pay for illegal aliens' healthcare.
With those liabilities.
According to your logic train,
Yes.
we need to let more illegal aliens into the country, give them more health care to
first of
keep all the hospitals.
Let me tell you what I'm saying.
Are you for it or not?
Can I start my logic train
Are
with
you for it or not?
My logic train starts with
Just
the fact that
say
I don't
yes.
want to kick 11 million people off
Do you
of
want
Medicaid.
the illegal aliens on or not?
First of all, do I want undocumented citizens to
Just
have
say
health care?
yes.
The answer is yes.
Scott,
Okay.
if someone is
More
undocumented,
Democrats.
do you want them to not get insulin if they're diabetic?
I want Medicaid to exist first and foremost for American citizens who need it. That is
What about second? I mean, first and foremost, of course. But
I
you
want the
also
program
do you
to
realize
exist and be
do you
solvent for
realize
the
that
people who
do you
need it.
realize that when people show up at your hospital, that we actually pay for that? Do you understand that when people get sick,
I know
or when
how it works.
how about this? When the people that are picking your peaches. Yeah, I'm passionate
Very
about
passionate
Americans.
for the illegals.
Sorry,
No, I'm passionate for
how dare
Americans.
When the people who are picking your peaches, why do they always go that route, man? So funny.
you want people to be alive? How dare you?
Passionate for the illegals. Bring more.
No, I actually want
yes,
safe and secure
You
borders.
need more to make your vision of America work. We need more illegals who get more benefits. That's your version of America.
No, what I want from America is a place that was promised to us, Scott.
To the
like
illegals?
you do. No, it was promised to us. It was promised to us,
who?
not us, me and you, black and white, brown. Scott, do you think that your family was
You were
born
born
here?
here.
You weren't born here, Scott.
I was born in
First of all,
Foster
where
Springs.
does your family come from? My family wasn't born here. My family was actually from Sierra Leone.
You're making a passionate argument
correct
for a
about
country
what our
built on unfettered illegal immigration, and that is not
No,
anywhere
our
near a
country-
politically popular
Our
position.
country is built on immigration, period.
What kind?
Period.
What kind?
Oh, and first of all, before we go to commercial, what kind of immigration was I brought here?
You're already
with?
in the hole. You sure you don't want to stop
No,
digging?
because it was slavery. That's not immigration.
Come on.
Well, okay.
Come on,
All
what?
right, there's a lot to be said.
Come on.
Hold on.
No, but you
No,
just can't say come on when somebody's like, my family was brought here in chains. The answer is not come on.
We're going to continue the conversation. There's a lot to be said about when immigration laws came into play in this country and how many people who came to this country as immigrants had neither legal.
Yeah, he had said, got upset with the term illegal alien, and he said undocumented citizen. I'm like, how? If you're a citizen, then you are legally, you're like a legal resident. So undocumented is just the PC way to say that you don't have the proper paperwork to be in the country, thus you are illegally here. So it is a not really a popular opinion still about us paying for the medical care of the undocumented, and it is basically a Democrat position. I mean, when they have the primaries, everybody like raise their hand about they believe that we should be paying for all that stuff. So it's a little surprising that they're still all trying to go down that route. A little surprising. But anyway, let's move on to the story about the Chinese nationals. So this was a story that I wanted to get to earlier in the week, but on the June 3rd, so this was a couple days ago, a press release came out. This is from the Justice Department. Chinese nationals charged with conspiracy and smuggling a dangerous biological pathogen into the U.S. for their work at the University of Michigan laboratory. And this happened in Michigan. Young Qing Jian, 33, and Zhengyang Liu, 34, citizens of the People's Republic of China, were charged with a criminal complaint with conspiracy smuggling goods into the United States, false statements, and visa fraud, announced the United States Attorney Jerome F. Gorgon Jr. Gorgon was joined in announcement by Special Agent Gibson, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Detroit Division, and Marty C. Raybon, Director of Field Operations in U.S. Customs and Border Protection. The FBI arrested Jian in connection with the allegations related to Jian's and Liu's smuggling into America a fungus called Fusarium garminea. I don't know how to say this. It's a fungus, which scientific literature classifies as potential agroterrorism weapon. The noxious fungus causes head blight, a disease of wheat, barley, maize, and rice, and is responsible for billions of dollars in economic losses worldwide each year, and is a toxin that causes vomiting, liver damage, and reproductive defects in humans and livestock. According to the complaint, Jian received Chinese government funding for her work on this pathogen in China. The complaint also alleges that Jian's electronics contain information describing that her membership in and loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party. It is further alleged that Jian's boyfriend, Lu, works at the Chinese university where he conducts research on the same pathogen, and that he first lied, but then admitted to smuggling the fungus into America through the Detroit Metropolitan Airport. I've been there many a times so that he could conduct research on it at the laboratory at the University of Michigan where his girlfriend worked. And that is so weird to me. And surreal to me. Like I don't travel, I guess, via airplane a lot. I could probably count on one hand how many times I've really been on a plane, really traveling. I haven't done it a lot, but I've definitely had to go to that airport a lot to at least pick up a lot of people, whether it's my dad traveling or dropping off my siblings or something like that. I've been to that airport a lot, so it is just very surreal thinking about people smuggling in things that could be so dangerous to our agriculture and really negatively impact us. So there is an article that ABC put out about this story, talking to experts about this case, and they said it is possible that it is a mistake, that it might not have been them trying to really smuggle something illegally. Maybe it was just kind of bad judgment. And they're saying that this is not like this particular fungus is just exclusively in China that they're bringing it over, but it does occur, I guess, naturally sometimes over here as well. But what they would have to do is analyze if what they're working on is I don't even know if significant, but a worse strain than what you could maybe find over here. Because obviously if it's worse, then it would be really bad if it was exposed to our wheat and so on. So I don't know. It is concerning about what people can bring in and get over here. I'm glad that our Justice Department's on the case. Them finding stuff saying that they're loyal to the Communist Party. I mean, they're Chinese nationals. I'm not really surprised by that, but there are people who come over all the time who are people with bad intentions. I mean, you had Eric Swalwell, who's on the Breakfast Club recently, by the way, who was messing with a Chinese spy. And he tried to say that whole story, he was confronted about that on the Breakfast Club by Charlemagne and them. And he said that the story was, bullcrap. But it's not that it was bullcrap. I mean, he was warned that the person he was with was a Chinese spy. So, so he cut ties and stuff, but it's, it is an issue. And people have concern about different plants and things that are being built in Michigan that folks feel shouldn't be involving so many Chinese nationals. And then you hear stories like this. On top of, there was a Chinese national who voted in our election. I don't know. I can't remember what campus it was. It might have been, I don't think it was OU. I was not OU. I don't know if it was U of M. It might have been state, but it was in Michigan. Chinese national voted, and after he voted, his vote counted the same as mine did. They couldn't just go and retrieve it. And the only reason why they found out was because he kind of tried to undo it. So that's concerning. That's concerning. So I think we should, I just wouldn't be surprised with this story and also the story that we covered that happened on Sunday that we've been covering about the man from Egypt who had a visa that he overstayed, and he set those people on fire in Colorado. I just would not be surprised if they just start revoking a lot of stuff. I mean, Trump did issue like a travel ban on some places with like the different visas. I think they're just going to be real sticklers about that stuff coming in. Of course, the Democrats will continue to fight. They're trying to fight Trump on deporting the Egyptian illegals' family. So that's the route they want to go, but I don't think publicly it's a great look for them. Kit Kat said them being CCP members isn't enough. It's concerning. It's concerning. I mean, you can't just. I mean, I guess you could try to send weapons in the U.S. and do terrorism and kill some people and so on. But if you do something like that, man, the rate of how we're going to hit you back is just going to be overwhelming. If October the 7th had happened to the U.S. on some kind of proportional scale to how tragic it was, it would we would turn things into landfills, countries into landfills. It would just be we'd be a wrecking crew, man. But you have to destroy a nation like the United States in far more subtle ways. There's a video from an interview years ago. It might be from the trying to find it. Yuri Bezmenov. His interview might be from the 80s, if not the 70s, where he's talking. He's a former KGB agent, and he just talks about how the things that you see in like a James Bond movie, that sexy sort of espionage, that's not really what goes on with spying and so on. It's a lot more subtle, and they work on demoralizing your society. And once you demoralize a society, and that's when you can start making it impossible for people to see the truth, even if it's right in front of your face. And once you get to that point, you can really start destabilizing a nation. And that's so there's different sort of tactics that people use, and there's other sort of warfare that folks I mean, if someone set off a EMP, that would really suck. But if someone ruined our crops, starts messing with our food supply, that would be terrible too. But a lot of the damage that people do is psychological warfare. And to go back to the trans issue, a couple people commented on a video I did on TikTok saying like, there's so many things going on. Why is this thing important? And I find that to be a pretty dishonest question, because I referenced a story back in 2016 earlier where they basically started it. And then there was a retaliation trying to protect the privacy of women in their bathrooms and so on. And then you had the NBA and all these groups deciding to boycott. So that's where we were. And I could list so many other things that the LGBT activists have done in the past 10 years or so to escalate the situation. So when we are like, hey, boys shouldn't be able to play in girls sports, like, oh, there's so many other important things that you could be focusing on. We are responding to the disruption that you caused, right? So I find that a really disingenuous argument. But something else that is concerning is I see a clear example of demoralization with this issue where people have gotten to the point where they can't even recognize something that's true. And even if they know something is true, they don't want to admit to it. They don't want to admit to it. So there's this, I was on the fence on whether I was going to talk about this today. I'll probably still make a separate video. But there's an actor named Hunter Schafer. Hunter is a trans woman. And Hunter is on the show Euphoria. And if you look up Hunter Schafer, there's a rumor. And it's not started by Nintendo or whatever. I don't know who, it's from like Twitter or someone started a rumor that Hunter Schafer was being considered for the role of Zelda. Beloved video game character, very iconic. And a female. Female, right? So there's one photo that people keep using, and they're like, Hunter looks exactly like Zelda in maybe a photo. Looks, similar, sure. In other videos and photos, not so much. Not so much. And people are like, oh, you guys are just transphobic because you said it's about looking like the character, and this person looks like the character. He kind of sometimes looks like the character, sure, in some angles. But you know what? If Dean Withers, who is a TikTok, celebrity, if Dean Withers was in the right hair and makeup, maybe he could look just as much like Zelda as Hunter Schafer. Or who's the kid who plays Spider-Man? Tom Holland. If Tom Holland had the right hair and makeup and angles, he could probably look just as much as Zelda, like Zelda, as Hunter Schafer with the right hair and makeup. Now, if you're okay with men playing women, which happened historically on stage plays, which happens in animation, you can do voiceover stuff. Maybe you don't care. Maybe you're for like, if they can visually pull it off. I used to watch the show Face Off. That was a good show on Sci-Fi Channel. It was like a FX, special effects, like makeup competition. If you can make them look enough like women, would it be okay if they played that role? Maybe you're okay with that. But maybe you're like, you're clearly taking opportunities from women, and there's a lot of cool female characters out there, but we definitely could use some more. So to have a guy come in and take one of those roles, no, that's not cool. Especially in a world where so many people say if you're black, you got to play a black person, or Hispanic, you got to play a Hispanic person. If you're Asian, you got to be Asian, and so on and so forth. And you can't just be Hawaiian, you got to be the right shade of Hawaiian. And so that's the route we've been going toward for a while. So it just strikes me as strange that people are like, hey, this dude could totally play Zelda. But the issue is that they believe, or affirm rather, that Hunter is a girl. And if they're like, she looks just like her. Who is she? He ain't a she. That's the issue. That's really the issue. And they suspect that that's the issue. They're like, these transphobes. But let me offer a example on why I think that's wrong. So if you're saying that it is valid for someone to undergo some kind of surgery to change themselves, and then they can look like the person that they're playing. I'm not saying that's the sole reason why they did it, but if they had done it before and now they look like they could pull off those characters or whatever, would you be okay with that? And there's a movie that asked that question before. Is it okay to undergo surgery and then you look like the character that you want to play? Is that okay in our society? They asked that question in Tropic Thunder. And of course, Tropic Thunder is a joke. I've seen that movie one time. It's very R-rated, so it was a lot, but admittedly funny. But Robert Downey Jr. played an Australian actor who was extremely method. And so he got cast in a black role in a movie because the film was about the making of a movie. So he underwent like a pigmentation surgery to darken his skin. He was wearing this wig and stuff so he could play the character. And there was another in their group of actors, there was a real black man who was upset about it. He was offended about it because he worked hard to represent. And then this Australian guy darkens his skin and gets this lead black role. Obviously, that was not fair. And as he was in his role, and he's extremely method, so he is, in all instances, this person during this film, and according to his mind, he would say things that were black coded or whatever, supposed to be, and the real black man would get offended by the different things. There's that famous scene like, "What do you mean, you people?" And he's like, "What do you mean, you people?" So there's also a scene like at the end of the movie when Ben Stiller's character has like snapped, and Robert Downey Jr.'s character is confronting him, and he's like, "I'm the dude playing the dude as disguised as another dude." And he's like, "Are you that dude, or are you a dude who doesn't know which dude he is," or something like that? And then he just kind of realizes that he himself as an individual thinks he's a nobody, so he encompasses all these other roles to sort of mask that. So he becomes someone else because he doesn't like who he is, okay, and gets fully immersive in the roles. So of course, Tropic Thunder is a movie, and it's comedy and it's parody. And he's making fun of those extremely method people. But let's imagine for a moment that Robert Downey Jr. was like, "I really enjoy playing that black man. I would like to play black men for the rest of my life. I feel like that was supposed to be my life." Let's say he actually goes through some kind of pigmentation surgery and he, just looks legitimately that color for the rest of his life. So he can go around auditioning, trying to take every role that Sam Jackson wants for himself, or could have gone to him or some other black actor. Would you be okay with that? Because that's basically the same thing as the Hunter Schafer thing. Because Hunter's not a woman. He believes that he's performing as one. We can go back to that J.K. Rowling tweet to just kind of hit home with that. And as she said, there is no living as a woman. There's only living while being a woman or performing a male idea of what a woman is while being a man. So if you're okay with people altering themselves to that degree to live this lie so they can perform the lie, I mean, acting or whatever, it's all performance anyway. If you would think that was okay with the Robert Downey example, then at least you'd be consistent with the Hunter Schafer example. But I'd wager people would not be okay with both. Maybe some people would say they don't care. But when you compare people who are like transracial to transgender, they're like, that's not the same. That's not the same. Gender's a social construct. One of the tenets of critical race theory is that race is a social construct. And that's one of the non-controversial tenets. But you claim that gender is a social construct. And I reject that. I reject that. But even, I'm not going to say, but even, I can grant that you believe that it's a social construct. You can still believe your fantasy and not, that doesn't mean that you should be granted access to our sex segregated places. Because if you claim those are different, they're still different. And how you perceive yourself to be, how you choose to perform, doesn't mean that you can somehow phase through the biological wall of reality. So when people are like, no, that's a girl, I can understand how people might be confused or tricked. You know, he definitely does it better than other folks that I've seen, you know. But we do know he's a man. Unless he's lying or whatever. But he looks a bit mannish, you know. But we're all, from what we all know, he's trans. But they're like, no, that's a girl. That's a girl. No, that's not true. Leah Thompson, like, that's a woman. That's a woman. No, that's not true. Like, Leah should be able to play and swim against the woman. You're totally demoralized. You can't recognize truth anymore. And these people, they would like to make it a crime to dead name. They want to make it a crime to misgender people. They take away your kids. If the kids are confused and you don't affirm them, that has happened. Teachers, you know, secretly teaching them in the classroom because they feel more entitled to your children. You know, it's wrong to think that your children belong to you. The state has to protect them. It's a way to break apart society, man. I'm so glad that there's a conservative majority in the court. I'm so glad. Jack Phillips got sued for not wanting to make a gender identity cake. At first he got, you know, in trouble with the LGBT community for the not baking a cake for a gay wedding, and then he won that case, and then they got him for the gender cake. If they could, they'd be using this stuff to rewrite all kinds of laws, and they have in different places. But thank God that we've had a bit of a pendulum swing. But to me, it's a perfect example of ideological subversion and how they could undermine the integrity, yes, of our country. But I'm glad that there are people who are pushing back. So that's one reason why I talk about it and I care about the issue. That's why I care about the issue. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. I saw earlier that there's someone in the comments. They're probably gone by now, but they said, bleep Trump and anyone who voted for him. I hope you do something for the lies and the damage you are helping spread. You're gonna have to, I mean, they're gone now probably, but if I said something untrue, you could be specific. But then they said, please block me and I'm unsubscribing. You could block me. I don't I wonder how certain people ended up subscribing at all. Maybe they're a turf. Because a lot of my I had very viral stuff where addressing the trans issue, but if you don't know that I'm a conservative right-wing Republican, then you haven't. I don't know where you been. I don't know where you been. I don't know where you been. I don't know where you've been. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream. Run my site, all the good stuff so you guys can support it. Very much appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can go to the website. Also check out different t-shirts and mugs and so on. So I encourage you guys to go ahead and do that. You guys can also check out my different books that I've written. I have plenty, 18 altogether. There's a link in the description. It'll take you to an Amazon page. God bless you guys. Have a safe, happy weekend, and I'll see you next week. I'm almost 36, guys. God bless you.